lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and back with me again, my good pal Joe Casey, talking Blood Squad 7.
Aloha.
This time we're going through issue 4. This is the end of the first arc. If you have not been reading this series, what's wrong with you? Go pick it up right now from your local comic shop. A great time. You can get all 4 and catch up on the arc before, the second arc starts, and then there's a one-shot coming up soon as well. But we also have gone through the first 3 issues of this, so check that out on the channel. There's a playlist. But let's jump into this. This is the big fight between, first of all, you got both ripcords. This is finally the teams together. They're going after one of their own, and a lot of action in this one for sure.
Yeah, really fucked up reason to unite the team, but that's kind of...
I like that it's a fucked up reason to unite the team, because it kind of makes it more interesting. And you open up and this dude's just fucked up completely.
Yeah.
He's on the fucking, that's a train, subway.
Yeah. Train.
Yeah. And just the blood trailing to him as he's just like sitting there, knowing that his time's basically coming to an end.
Yeah, his state of being is the result of the off-panel fight from last issue with the FBI or the guys who stormed his apartment. He took a few hits on that one.
Yeah, he took that was a bloody scene in and of itself, but like even just as he's sitting here and, takes a certain kind of superhero to abandon all morality and embrace the chaos. Yeah. One of a kind. So let's see what kind of deal meal I can make of this. He's just like straight psychopath. Yeah. Like there's some shit going on in his head that I can't even relate to. Usually you can relate a little bit to the villain. It's very hard to relate with that guy.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea.
Yeah.
We don't need sympathizers to his cause for sure. Now I will say that the battle cruiser is based on, this is a weird Easter egg. It's loosely based on, when Rob was in the early days of Image, when they were really making their mark in the first couple of years, Rob Liefeld actually built a full-size battle cruiser that he took around to conventions, maybe a couple at least, certainly San Diego, I think Chicago, and you could go inside of it and walk around in it. And it was just, it's like a prop. He had cosplayers as his characters, but he had this battle cruiser prop. So I managed to track down the few photos of it that exist, send them to Paul and say, hey, for our battle cruiser, this is what we're kind of basing it on. And he sort of extrapolated so he could fit more people in it, but it's kind of the same basic design, which I got a kick out of.
Yeah, I remember seeing the photos of the battle cruiser and that big ass Bad Rock, that dude in the suit.
Yep.
Obviously I was young, so I wasn't, partaking in that stuff, but yeah, it must have been nice to have that kind of money to just like build your own, props at the cons and stuff, No
kidding. Yeah, really. Well, we remember it. We eulogize it in the pages of this comic now.
That's right. The team coming to stop him, and like, as we left off last issue, like there was kind of mixed feelings about doing what they have to. They have no choice. They all know they have no choice, but they're still like, some are more ready than others to take this dude out, and some were kind of like torn.
What I sort of liked about this issue is that they're all pretty much in game mode now. It's one thing in a meeting to voice your opinions or your objectives or your objections, but it's another thing to be out in the field. And I wanted to show that these guys, when it comes down to it, want to be professionals. They want to be good at their job, even though it's a fucked up mission. They're down for it. They're once they suit up, they're ready to go.
This part too, where she's like Infinity 2.0, call her. She's like, what the hell's this new Ripcord doing? He's just sitting off in the corner. You call it out. Like, it's not every day that you're like, trial by fire is you're killing your predecessor of who you're replacing.
Yeah, that is a little fucked up.
Love this panel right here too. Paul's killing it, dude, on this issue.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. He's having a good time too, because this issue especially, we worked up to this to where this is really, I don't want to call it old school, because there's always action in superhero comics, but just a pure action scene I think a lot of artists, that's what you dream about as a kid, watching or drawing superheroes and supervillains beating the shit out of each other. So now, so the payoff for Paul, I think, was this issue of the first 4, which is this is just pure action all the time. He just gets to go for it, and he did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, like, was this the one where you kind of gave more liberties to him in terms of like what we're seeing on the book? Because like this one, I would say was like the fastest read for me of the first 4, right? Like this feels like, I don't want to say he took the heavy lifting, but like he had a little bit more of a role, I would say, in the outcome of this, if that makes sense.
No, I totally agree. I mean, that's kind of the balance of, the writer-artist relationship in superhero comics, is that sometimes, it's weird because you're talking head scenes for most artists are fairly easy. They're not that challenging. You're not doing a lot of the heavy lifting, as you say. And the writing sort of takes precedent. And then the pendulum shifts to the other direction, where the action scenes, the artist definitely takes over and does the heavy lifting. I mean, some of these, I guess I was pretty specific about that one panel where he's on the train top, that, but for everything else, it was like, go for it, Paul. This is what the action is, and let's see what you can do, pal. And as we see, he did a great job.
Yeah, and like, not to say that I don't like when there's talking heads, because I like all aspects. I mean, there's we've been talking about over the past 3 issues of getting to see that behind the scenes stuff and how interesting and fun that can be. But getting to see Paul let loose on this issue was just a blast. Like this felt probably the most of like that 90s, like, because most of that 90s stuff was just like a lot of fighting. You know what I mean? A lot of action. So like this one felt like it went full blown.
Well, that's the difference, I think, between those 90s comics and something like this, is that this thing is structured so that the action sequence is cathartic, is sort of a third act in the action movie kind of vibe, where you've earned it. You've earned the fun of watching these guys pound each other, and there's something behind it too, because now you know what the stakes are. You know pretty much where every character is in their headspace. So then to see the action play out, I mean, to me, there's more resonance. I mean, to see Ripcord versus Ripcord, having gone through what we've gone through the past 3 issues, it means something narratively. It's not just a slugfest,
Yeah. No, it definitely, like, and then building up the anticipation of like, you're waiting because some shit's about to go down, as as we were getting to this issue. And then the last page on issue 3 just left you wanted that battle, like you definitely, it makes the fights and the action valuable is not the right word. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of.
It's got more resonance. It's got than just the pyrotechnics of it,
He lays out a fight. Amazing. This one right here was sick. I love the way he did.
For anyone who read, Bête Noire was created in the series The New Men. At the tail end of that run, when artist Chris Sprouse came on and did a couple issues with Eric Stevenson as the writer, and they created this character. She was barely in the story, but that power that she has to kind of sort of send you on a sort of a psychedelic trip, that's right out of the old comic. That's the Chris Sprouse conceived effect.
Okay.
So, I mean, anybody who's ever seen, I mean, those are rare comics. But anyone who's seen them or knows them would recognize that effect. We took it straight from there.
I can't guarantee to everybody watching this that I'll be able to find the page, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to throw that in, just so that, and I'll leave this in here too, even if I don't find it. That way, I at least tried, because I will try to put it in here. And this is the first time we see Alex's powers too, because I don't think I knew what his powers were prior to this. That one was kept more of a mystery.
It's just telekinesis. But yeah, this is the first time we see what he can do, and he hasn't mastered it quite yet. It's sort of like sledgehammer tactics. It's not quite refined yet, which I sort of like. I like the idea that even a mind power, when it's not refined, is you can play fast and loose with it.
Well, yeah, and I would imagine the lack of like confidence he has in himself would affect the way those powers are displayed too, right?
Right.
Because he's like not even sure, and she's like, "I didn't. Don't give me your fucking bullshit. I brought you here for a reason. Now go do your job." You know, and
Yeah.
even here, like the trepidation that he has, like, you know, I can do this.
I mean, it's interesting. It gives the character somewhere to go, and we'll develop that over the course of the series for sure.
God, this is so great. I mean, this looks like a blockbuster action movie the way he's choreographing this all.
Well, that's
So good.
that's right out of the Matrix Reloaded, where they're the fight on the trucks on the freeway.
I'll be honest with you, that's the one I've watched the least. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go. I know what you're talking about, but I would not have been able to pick that out. It's
I know. Well, it's just in terms of the physics of it. I wanted the
yeah.
train car to buckle in the same kind of fashion, and so that's the reference that we used.
Yeah, I love the scope of it all, you know?
The choreography in fight scenes can be a lost art for things to make sense, one action leading into the next, and it all flowing in a logical fashion. I find you see that less and less these days in superhero comics. I don't know why that is.
100% agree. And I was like recently, I know this is off topic, but I was reading the old Batman and the Outsiders from the
Yeah.
80s when Alan Davis
Oh yeah.
took over. And I was reading that issue with Katana, and I'm like, holy fuck. Like, nobody's doing it. I don't want to say nobody, but it's rare when you see stuff like that where it's like, there was thought behind this. It wasn't just let's put character A and character B here and smack them together like they're a couple action figures. I miss that kind of stuff. And I mean, that was like probably, I mean, I can still picture it in my mind. And I've only read that comic one time, but it was just, it had an effect on me, you know, and it made me think about the way that fights are displayed in comics. And I've heard the complaint people say there's not enough action in comics anymore. You know, there's not enough of superhero fighting and that it feels kind of bland. I mean, I don't necessarily think that that's fair to say of the whole industry, but I can see why some people might say that, you know, in terms
Yeah,
of superhero comics.
yeah. I think it's leaned more into moments
Mm-hmm.
that are meant to evoke a wider action sequence that you don't see on panel. You see the moment, like maybe the coolest moment or the most dramatic moment.
Yeah.
But I like to see things play out. I like the storytelling of a good fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we tried to do with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why this one stood out to me so much, and like that was my takeaway from this entire issue is like this was such a great action comic. No, you know, no pun intended here. But it was great, and I mean, like I just keep falling in love with his art every issue that comes out. He's
Yeah.
such an underrated talent. Like I really hope that you know people kind of latch onto him more, and I would love to see him. I mean, I don't want him to leave you, but I would love to see him get other gigs, you know, from this hopefully because this is fantastic.
I think that's probably inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not for a while.
Yeah, not for a while. No, you need to keep him on this book because I love this shit. Fucking, I don't know this panel. It's like stuff like this. I love seeing Ripcord just hanging from the tracks. You know? Sometimes people don't throw that in there. Like you don't see that. Like you were saying, like the moments, like that's not necessary, or it's not necessarily necessary to see.
Yeah.
But I like seeing that kind of stuff because it just like adds to like, man, this dude just got fucked up multiple times by his former teammates, and he's just like hanging there.
Yeah.
And then gets not, and then, you know, then he gets dropped. Well, she's losing her shit right here too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's the thing that when you pare down the dialogue, like you say, it's meant to be a fast read. It's meant to be really like bang, bang, bang. You're kind of moving through it at a fast clip.
Mm-hmm.
That it gets the adrenaline up even as you read it, I think.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I like this, what she's yelling, you know, because like they're each hitting him one at a time, right? Like they're not, the team dynamic is not really in play where like they're playing off of each other, and her calling that out, like, stop doing what you're doing because all these people are used to working by themselves. They're not used to being like with other people. And I love how defiant she is to her mom.
Yeah.
She does not give a shit. She doesn't give a shit.
On that first panel on that left-hand page, I would say is the first Easter egg where we cover ourselves, because in issue 1, with the stuff in Ukraine, there's a similar panel where the Russian helicopter is firing down at. And I told Paul, hey, let's homage ourselves for once, and just kind of mirror that same panel. So it's our first self homage in a book full of homages.
It's great. I love this knockdown fight between these two.
Well, this is Infinity, getting to prove herself finally. After all her bitching and moaning about wanting to be in the game, this is it. And as you can see, especially when you turn the page, the consequences are maybe more than she hoped for. Because there goes the Wonder Wheel, the famous Wonder Wheel in Coney Island.
You know what I'm noticing too? Like, it didn't catch it the first read, but there's not a lot of like onomatopoeias taking up space on the page.
I'm not big on sound effects.
I like that though, because it's like you're seeing the full, because sometimes it covers up. Well, I mean, every time it's there, it's covering up what you could, it's covering the scene, it's covering the character. So, I mean, like, I was just noticing this, like, not normally, I don't want to say that, but in some comics, you would see like crack, right? Like she's cracking into his spine. That's interesting. I didn't know that you didn't really like that.
Oh yeah, it's just it's been a long time since I've used them occasionally, because again, when they're earned, they're more effective.
Mm-hmm.
When all over the place, it's white noise. I mean, the best use of sound effects I've seen in the last 20 years is Frank Quitely on Batman and Robin, where he himself was drawing the sound effects. That's when it really works to me.
God, I haven't read that in such a long time, but I'm remembering the way he put the sound effects, and yeah, it was, because then it's part of the art. It's not something that's added after the fact.
Exactly.
I love this. This little, I had no idea she could do that. Yeah, because she didn't really fully believe in her daughter, I think.
Well, it's kind of how it goes sometimes with the generations. You don't know what you can trust in the next one coming up, and the one coming up doesn't trust the one that came before him. You know, it's pretty typical.
This is a great double panel right here.
Yeah,
they're both shooting at the same.
So now we get down to it. Now Enigma shows back up, and shit gets real fast.
That's what's cool too about you saw Bête Noire, the way her powers are displayed, the way Enigma's powers are displayed are both very unique and stuff that you don't see in other heroes or other characters.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it's really an assassin move. He just pops up and fucks the guy up.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of it, really. But I will say every bit, even in the action, now that we're really getting into the series, I can tell you and whoever's reading this that every action even is laying track for what's to come. It's all very deliberate in what we see and what these guys can do and how they do it. Enigma especially, I'm writing the last issues of the second arc as we speak. What he can do and how he does it and what he is, it's not just random. I mean, it's going to all lead to something pretty significant. That's the fun of long form series for me, is you're laying tracks and you're putting down breadcrumbs that will lead to somewhere eventually. So none of this is just, I mean, it's great, and it gives that visceral sense of like, oh, this is cool, but it's all part of a bigger puzzle.
Yeah, it's just I can't wait. And I mean, just this issue was probably my favorite.
Oh, great. Wow.
Because getting to see I love the behind the scenes, but I think because of the anticipation of watching this team come together and watching this knockdown fight happen, I just think it was masterfully executed. I think it was fantastic. And I always recommend this book to people every time people ask me what I'm reading. So
it's funny because this is the first issue, as far as I'm concerned, that it doesn't have a flashback. It doesn't really on the Image Comics backstory that the first 3 issues really leans on. We get back to it, but I like that this issue is only in the here and now. It only focuses on the modern characters, and it's still, to me, it works. It doesn't need. I mean, those other elements aren't a crutch because they're part of the series, but I like the fact, in retrospect, that this one, in a way, stands alone for the modernity of it.
And it's funny because this could almost be looked at like a first issue, right? Like this could have been like a first issue in terms of like all the action. That's something you might see in other comics where like they throw you in at, you know, like at the end of the arc and then you come back to it sometimes. Like I said, not many titles that I can think of off top like build up the tension in the way that this series has been building. And I'm just very excited to see what comes next. And now it feels it is cool to see the homages. It is cool to see the characters that tie in, but it's nice that it's starting to feel like something just its own thing. It doesn't have to be connected to anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. But now we get back to the backroom machinations of how they're going to deal with this. And you see at the bottom, Angela, the press secretary, is just spinning it. Just they've got their cover story and they're sticking with it. And for all, there's no feeling that anyone's not going to buy it. They've got it covered.
I love that they have to mourn him also, like the OG Ripcord, as a hero because they can't. They don't want to let people know, and like even going to like the service and stuff and giving him like a fucking American flag and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's, to me, that last page is emblematic of the conflict that Erica is dealing with, which is I've got to make this work, she's got to make compromises that some that she absolutely doesn't believe in, some things that she thinks are complete bullshit, but to make this work, she's got to swallow a lot of shit. Sort of life as an adult, really. I think Paul really did a good job. That's the most Watchmen-esque page so far.
It is, yeah. No, it's fantastic, dude. And I can't, like I said, first of all, I have to call it out every time. The letters pages are always great.
Oh yeah.
This is what I'm very excited for.
Yeah.
The Strikefile issue.
It comes out in October, actually.
Okay, yeah. So next month. Next month's when it's dropping.
Right.
And I love Super Patriot being here. One of my favorite characters that Eric Larson did with his Savage Dragon run was this character. So cool to see him in this issue. Also, the fact that you're doing a Strikefile issue, which ties into the Youngblood, and then this Jim Rugg cover that you sent me. I mean, my God, dude, he's just killing it on these covers.
It's great. It's so cool. So this brings back a character. There's the character from the original Blood Squad 7 was the character called Man of War, who's the die-hard stand-in character, and this 30-page story brings him back in a very cool way. And again, this is a flashback to the first Super Patriot miniseries by Keith Giffen, Eric Larson, Dave Johnson, which was Die Hard versus Super Patriot. Of course, our version is Man of War versus Super Patriot, but it's again, as we've done before, it's the same scene, same dialogue. It's for people who know that old comic, they'll recognize this stuff right away. But again, Paul's just crushing it.
I know, it's so good. I'm so excited for this issue. Super Patriot hasn't been used in forever. So when I saw that he was going to be in this issue and I love that original miniseries, like you just called out, the Keith Giffen, Eric Larson, Dave Johnson. That one's fun.
So the Strikefile issue is like we treat it like the old annuals that the Marvel and DC used to do, where like once a year they do an oversized story. It was part of the continuity; it fit right in, but just like a little mini event. And so this thing is 30 pages. Still me and Paul, but we're really proud of it. It turned out really, really great.
Yeah, I can't wait for it, dude. I'm just waiting for the foil covers that you guys are gonna do. I'm just saying, I mean, come on, let's go full 90s. Let's get embossed covers, glow in the dark, foil, chrome covers. You gotta do it at least once. You know what I mean? Like,
well, issue 1 had a foil variant cover.
Oh, I never saw that one.
Yeah.
I gotta pick that up. Yeah, all right. But pick this book up. Like I said, this is the perfect time to jump into Blood Squad 7. Issue 4 came out end of August. So you got
final cutoff for Blood Squad 7 Strikefile is, I think, the first week in October.
Okay. Wait, yeah, so it must be coming out the very last week of October. That's correct. What that means. Okay, yes. So hit up your shop, go catch up on issues 1 through 4. You can order them from your shop. If they don't have it, they can order it from their distributor. Get on board with this, catch up before that, pick up this Dutch mini series too. This series is an absolute blast, and you won't be disappointed if you pick it up. And hope you continue to check out these creator commentaries that Joe and I are doing. I have a blast doing them with him, and it's all 4 issues are now up, so you can watch all 4 videos, and we will come back with the Strikefile issue when that comes out. So, Joe, thanks again for doing this. Always love doing it with you, and we'll talk soon.
Yep, for sure.